The average American no longer believes that the American dream applies to them. Us and them is what happens when civic nationalism stops working. Us and them is what happens when the social contract that you have as a citizen with your elected officials or your unelected officials no longer holds true. When the safety net has so many holes that it doesn't feel like a net for you anymore. You get us versus them. That's exactly where we are with structural inequality in the developed world and increasingly in other markets as well, is this has become a chronic condition. What worries me is that we're now hitting an environment in this 21st century where labor increasingly doesn't matter to the capital equation, where we see with AI and with automation and 3D printing, enormous displacement, much more displacement than we ever saw from workers leaving the US and going to China because China was cheap. In fact, we're going to see a lot more investment back to the United States because Chinese labor is now more expensive. And, you've got a regulatory environment in China. It's very hard to navigate. There's no rule of law. They support their own companies. Well, if you don't need Chinese labor, why the hell are you producing there? If you're Walmart, why are you going to produce everything in China for the American market? Why wouldn't you come back and produce in the United States? And I think that they increasingly will do that. But the problem is that if you don't need American workers, then why are you going to help those American workers? And I think that is the real challenge. A lot of people believe that this post-industrial revolution with AI and automation, that we're going to create more jobs, because we always have in the past. Technology has always provided more jobs, not less. Well, that's historically true if you look at human beings. But it's not historically true if you look at, say, horses, right? Mid-19th century, you had horses really driving industry, driving transport, driving machinery for manufacturing, production. Suddenly you have industrial revolution, you have the steam engine, and you have electricity, and you don't need horses anymore. And the horse population over the course of just a few decades goes to 10% of what it was. Today, horses are useful for entertainment, and they're useful for food, mostly for animals, pets, and the rest. That is also historical precedent. And if we find that what automation and AI is capable of doing, and we see the inflection point, this is exponential growth. What if suddenly the skill sets that human beings have for large percentages of our work simply are no longer necessary in a short period of time, in a period of time where we can't effectively respond to it? We already know we're moving towards automation in trucking and in driving, which are the number one or number two sources of labor in every American state right now. Over the course of 10 years, what if we just don't have anything to respond to with that? I'm not suggesting that suddenly we're going to bring the human being population down to 10% of what it was. What I'm suggesting is that we're not going to treat those people well. And if we don't address that now, if we're not honest with ourselves about that now, we're gonna wait for 10 years before we even start to think about solutions.